Hey everyone, this is Three Questions with Lori Care. There we go. My friend Lori.
Like the music.
Well, you gotta play a little. Hey, I am actually with Lori Care. I was just at her school district. Geez, like 5 days ago. It was on Friday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I got to speak there, and I'll tell you, it was one of the just most lively staffs. Absolutely amazing. And by the way, I already liked Lori before it started. And one of your teachers came up to me and they just said how incredible of a principal you were. And I knew it. I already knew that. I could tell. But it was just really, really cool to hear a staff acknowledge that. And then they said about the culture. And I felt that when I walked in and I saw like kids all over, all their work in the hallways. It just had such a great vibe. So I'm like really excited to talk to you today. So thanks for taking time to be on the podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for having us. I'm excited that teacher said that. I'm not exactly sure who it was, but I'll make sure I find out and thank
Yeah,
them.
just give gifts to everybody, right? Just
Yeah.
make assumptions. So yeah, it was really nice to hear. It was really nice to hear, and it stuck to me. And I know I mentioned this to you. We have a new book coming out called "What Makes a Great Principal." And it's actually, you're a great principal, obviously. So I was like, hey, this is a great way to kind of segue as the book's coming out. I want to highlight some of the great principals that are out here. But I know you've taught, you've worked in central office, you're currently a principal. And I know that your teachers, just the inspiration that they felt, and I look at, some of your experience, the Atlantic City area. When you think of like a great teacher you've had, who's someone that you think of and why?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you. So I go back to a couple different teachers, and I had a really, really great school experience. I know that some kids say like, or some adults say like, yeah, I wasn't great in
Right.
school. I tried to do my best every single day.
Yeah.
I tried to bring it. And I think back all the way back to like my second grade teacher, and I'm showing like years and years ago, I felt like I'm in a little schoolhouse. But it was just a small building. It was only grades K1 and 2. And this teacher had been there for years and years. And I don't remember anything she taught me. I just remember how kind she
Right.
was. She
Right.
just was so cool. And the reason I liked her, she had this thing. It was literally a piece of construction paper that was laminated, and it said the key to success on it. And she would like rest that on your desk randomly throughout like the year. And you never knew. You would just come in the morning and the key to success would be on your desk. And that meant if you did your job all day long and turned in the key to success at the end of the day, you would get a prize. And it was a cool concept because you didn't have to do anything extra. You just had to do what you're supposed to do. So if
Right.
you brought your homework, if you were a nice person, as long as you just didn't get in trouble or mess up throughout the
Right.
day, you got to get your prize. So I was so excited. The one day I saw the key to success, I did my job, I got my prize, and I just couldn't wait for the next day or for the next time that I would get this key to success. Because I mean, there was probably like 15 kids in our class. So we got it a couple times throughout the year. The second time I get the key to success again, I'm like, oh, I got this. I got this. And I grab my backpack, I go to turn my homework in, and I zip my bag open, and my binder is not in my bag, and I don't have my homework.
Oh no.
I know. So I'm like, did one of those things like where you check it and you check it again, and you're like, oh, your heart just sinks.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like all I want to do is like be the perfect student. I bring my homework every single day. Now the key to success is just sitting there waiting for me to take it, and I don't have my homework. So I felt like this big, and I had to say like, I don't get the key to success. I didn't do my homework. And the teacher didn't make any excuses for me. And she didn't say, oh, that's okay. You're still a good student. You still get a prize. She was just like, all right, well, I'll take the key to success. Like you were just unlucky. And that's the lesson I learned. She was super quiet about it. I didn't get a lecture. I didn't get
Yeah.
in trouble, but she just handled herself accordingly. And I learned from that and like learned like, all right, well, I forgot my homework. Like I wasn't trying to do anything wrong. I'll be okay. I'll move on. But it was like a cool experience. And I still remember that thing that she did in her classroom.
It was your teacher, Bill Belichick. He's like,
No.
do your job, right? So I know you're a
Yeah,
big
you
football
don't get
fan.
any extra praise. You're just supposed to come here and do what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so I'm gonna give the teacher a little air horn. Okay, so I actually just had a former NBA player on. His name is Dean Tolson, and really awesome interview. And one of his things they talked about was he basically played. I can't remember what he played. I think it was Arkansas. He played college basketball and he like couldn't read. He shouldn't have passed. And basically everyone just let him slip through because he was really
Yeah,
good at basketball, right? And he like resents that so much that he wasn't like held accountable. And like you can actually hold kids accountable without like ripping to pieces and all that other stuff. So you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think everyone's gonna like that story. I love it. I
I
love
know. I
that
love
story.
it.
Yeah,
I
because
had
I
a
think
chip on my shoulder. I remember feeling like, come
yeah,
on, like I'm one of the best kids in this class. So I thought, like,
yeah,
just let me slide. And I knew that if I went home and I told my parents that story, they'd be like, oh, well, you didn't get the key to success. I mean, deep down, my
right,
mom probably been like, oh, she should have got it.
right, right.
But I guess what? I'm here today. I'm happy that I'm
Yeah,
here. And I
yeah.
know that at work, if I don't do something right, I'm like, oh, sorry, that was my fault. I let that slip.
The best teachers I ever had super high expectations for me, right?
Yep.
So I love that story. Like I said, not everyone's gonna love that story, but it's not about how it makes you feel. It's actually how does that help the kid years from now, right? And so like I can actually attribute a lot of what you learn from that lesson and seeing how you interact with your staff, the expectations that I actually think this is really important. Not that you only have of your staff, but what you have of yourself first. That matters to me is that like, do you hold yourself to the standard of what you expect from a learner? Because I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of principals. They're like, yeah, staff, you need to learn, you need to continuously grow. And then as soon as like a PD starts, they bounce, like they're out. And it's like, oh, okay, like you tell us to do something and you do the exact opposite, but you're like totally immersed in that. And so I know I just love how you interact with your staff. I saw how accountable and I think I don't want to say accountable to you. I think how accountable everyone was to each other
Yeah,
for that
absolutely.
day and enthusiasm. And so like how you became a great principal, I'm sure you had, great administrators in your past. So when you think of like a great principal that you had as a student, as a staff member, who's someone you think of and why?
As someone I had an administrator is definitely somebody I had when I was young too. Those
Yeah.
those experiences. My last teacher, I feel bad. I told her, I said she didn't teach me anything that I remember, and clearly she taught me like
Right.
I had to have my stuff together. Right as I'm
Right.
talking, I
Right.
realized that. Um, Dr. Phipp, one of my earliest principals when I was young, I had her in like second, third grade. She would just do whatever she could to go over the top for kids. Like she dressed like a bookworm when we read a certain amount of books and like full on green hair, outfit, costume, pizza parties with kids, all those
Right.
different experiences that they gave you. I even remember when I graduated and she found out I wanted to get into teaching, she wanted to meet with me right away and figure out how she could help me. She's in her 70s and she's still an administrator at a local Catholic school. So she's just one of
That's
those
awesome.
people who just like embodies pouring her whole entire life into education, which I find super admirable.
That's good. A lot. Little shout out there. Let's go that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny because in her 70s, she's still admin. Some people are like, it's maybe time to go, right? And like honestly, and that's never my mentality. There's some people in their 30s. I'm like, it's time to go. It has nothing to do with your age. It has to do with your mentality, your excitement for the job. I remember one time I was working with a school. There's a principal. I'm sharing all these ideas. Talking about kind of the future of education, kind of like how we continue to learn, how we utilize technology. And he was the nicest guy ever, just absolutely amazing. And he's like, dude, like, really? You really think this is happening? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And he like, we were kind of joking around. And about 2 weeks later, after I left that district, somebody called me and said, hey, remember that principal? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, he retired. He retired after you came here. And he actually cited you as the reason. He said, after I saw George, I'm out. I don't want to do this stuff anymore. So they had a retirement ceremony. He like basically about 2 days after I was there. And it was really fascinating because in his speech, he said, yeah, like I was thinking about staying there a couple of years. And then George came here and I listened to what he said. And I was like, I'm out. I don't want to do this stuff. And it's actually not because I didn't see what George was important. I actually saw it was really important, but I just didn't want to learn it anymore. I've done my time. And so I decided, so I cannot sit in this chair and not be willing to grow. So I've decided to go. And I just thought
Absolutely.
that was like the best message ever because I think,
Yeah.
at some point you're just like, yeah, I'm good. Like I've done, and I just don't want to do this anymore. I do this, but I'd rather that than someone stay for 5 years and not do
Yeah.
that. Right. So
Yeah.
I love, some of the best learners I've ever met in my career were in their 70s, and some of the most resistant people I've met are in their 20s. and
Yeah.
vice versa. It has nothing to do with age, it has all with mentality. So I love that messaging. All right. So I know you are a very avid learner. And if you go back to your first year teaching, you started teaching when you were 22 years old, which is like, like, I don't know if it's rare. Like it took me, like 7 years to get a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
So, but there's a little struggle there.
It's all right.
So
Everyone finds their way.
yeah, we find our way kind of, sometimes I have no choice, but you just figure something out. And so if you go back to your first year of teaching, what advice would you give to your first year teacher self?
Oh my goodness. I think about those kids all the time because as you and I spoke before this,
Right,
I had them again and again. So like, it's like, ooh, you have the first year teacher. Oh, now you're the first year teacher again in second grade. And then like I
right,
called them again in fourth grade because I like looped them again.
right,
Um, I was trying to, when I think about that question, I was trying to impress the wrong people, right? I was trying to like get all my curriculum done and like look like a superstar for the principal or for the supervisor that was coming in to do my observation. And really like the people I'd impressed were the kids that were sitting in front of me every day,
right,
like watching me do my spiel. So I think I would tell that person that like, don't turn it on for somebody who's coming in the classroom. Make sure you're turning it on every day when you come
right,
in for those 15, 20 kids or 25 kids. I mean, some states you might have 30 kids.
right,
But I was so worried that I wasn't doing the right thing curriculum wise, and I should have. And I know I was doing the right thing relationship wise, but I wish I knew what I knew now, where I could have just been pouring all I could into relationships. Because really, when I look back, those questions that you asked me, like your favorite teacher, your favorite administrator
right,
that inspired you, like I don't remember fractions when they were teaching me them. I don't remember them teaching me to read a book, but I do remember how I felt when I walked into their classroom every day. And I hope those kids, those 24 or 25 kids that had me for a couple of years, when they hear my name, think like, oh, I loved her class. Like I
yeah,
loved going to see her every day. And I did feel that from them. I still have some that keep in touch with me. I think last year they ended up graduating eighth grade, or maybe 2 years ago. I'm like
yeah,
losing track now. And a couple of them reached back out. And it's so good to hear from them. But I'm like, man, why did I care? Of course you care what the principal thought, right? You're this teacher and you want to look good, but like, man, I hope that I left a way better impression in their eyes than I did any principal I ever had. Because I mean, now that I'm a principal, like who cares what the principal thinks? I want to hear from your students.
right, right. Well, it's funny. One of the first things I noticed when I walked in to your schools was the administrative staff, how welcoming they were to me, and how welcome you all were to me. And obviously, that experience that you have in your first year of teaching, you can see permeate throughout your schools. And I guarantee you that as much as you might say, oh, I wish I would have done this better, I'm sure there's tons of kids that you're still their favorite teacher ever from that first year. So and I think a lot of your staff, you're gonna be their favorite principal ever. So hopefully one day I have one of them on and they tell a story about you, because they were telling me stories about you, within 10 minutes of meeting them, about how great you were. So I'm gonna give everyone a heads up. This is not the last time you're hear from Lori. She's gonna be all over the place.
Yes.
I know she's destined for fame and profession of education. So I saw it firsthand. It was absolutely amazing. So Lori, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank
Excited.
you everyone
Thank
for
you,
listening.
George.
I can't wait to talk to you more.